Arts advocacy is important to me because the arts are what, changed my life, to be honest. Got me through high school and then I majored in music in college. And from there, I went to graduate school because I wanted to make great art possible. I was a classical musician, but now working for a local arts agency, a service organization, I can see the economic impacts of the arts. I can see how they increase, students' scores in education, how they lead to business development and community development, and how they really address issues of equity, giving people a creative way to express themselves, giving them a way to, interact with their local communities and show others, where they come from and what makes them feel like home. All of that is arts and culture. All of that is heritage. All of that is creativity. And I think that innovation is something that supports business, supports quality of life. It really helps us with our education system. And it's why we have one of the most beautiful places in the world to live. Without art, what we have, it's important. Equitable advocacy for me is trying to make sure that we have a holistic representation of residents behind the thoughts that we're expressing to legislators. So if you're going in and talking about schools, talking about all of the schools in the area, if you're going in and talking about community development, not just talking about new development, but talking about people who are new to your community or the people who are reflected in your community when you're talking about the power of the arts in economic development. So I think advocating from the perspective of a holistic community behind you gives you power and it gives you the support of all of those people to say, oh, I'm being represented and maybe I'm learning, or maybe I am seeing a different side of creativity and culture and how it's important in our advocacy. I hope to accomplish a myriad of things. I mean, of course, I think that increasing the funding for the National Endowment for the Arts and Humanities and for libraries and all of the other creative endeavors that we fund from the federal government, from military programs to State Department cultural advocacy programs, they're all really important. But most of all, I think that the intersectional communication with Maryland legislators specifically is one of my highest priorities. We are really, really grateful for the amount of support that we get for the arts and humanities in Maryland. But I love talking about how arts intersect with social justice, how arts intersect with mental health and wellness and community development, how they intersect with education, what's going on with economic development, all these places where we don't always think of artists and arts organization as businesses. They are small businesses. They do drive economic development. We don't always think of them as educational outlets, but they are helping increase student achievement. We don't always think of them as places for equity and social justice, but I think we saw with the incredible art that happened throughout, Black Lives Matter and COVID and all of these things, that art is powerful and art is a reflection of our values and who we are. And that is an intersectional argument for how they raise all of us up and kind of enhance all the things that we love and that we're passionate about. I'm a member of Americans for the Arts because I think having a national organization that is helping to craft and champion a voice and a perspective is incredibly important. I know that having the same message delivered from 1,000 voices is far more powerful than 1,000 messages delivered once. And I think that leadership from Americans for the Arts in the advocacy space, in the research space that supports the advocacy, AEP 5 and 6, the ideas, all the different pieces of data that get put together to support why the arts and humanities are important, allows us to achieve our objectives. I think it's really difficult to have those myriad voices delivered separately. It's much better to say, here are the main points, and let me give you an example from my experience. The individuality then comes as support rather than a different focus.